I was born in North Beach, San Francisco, on Chestnut and Mason, September 5th, 1908, BC. When I was a kid, about 10 years old, I used to walk from my house on Chestnut and Mason to the wharf was about 4 or 5 blocks. And I walked through the lumber yard. It used to be a lumber yard. And I used to pick up the knots that fell off the wood, off the lumber, and take them home and use them for coal. And then when the train used to pass by, we used to throw something at the guy, and he used to throw coal at us so we could have some coal to take home. And we ain't stupid all day, you know. My mother was born in Buffalo, New York. My father was born in Porticello, Sicily. Yeah.
And what is your dad's name?
Giovanni Battista Alioto. And my mother was named Rose Callego. Rose. And she was American born in Buffalo.
How did they meet?
In San Francisco. My mother had her sister was here, and so they brought my mother from Buffalo here, and she met my father. So they got together. They really had to force them to get married. My mother didn't want to marry him. Yeah. So
why not?
They finally got married, and we have all us kids. 1906, my brother Frank. 1908, me. 1912, 1910, Kathy. 1912, my brother Joe. And my brother Willie, 1914, and my brother Sammy, the 6th, 1917, and we came here to San Diego in 1917 when he was a baby. The kids were always sick up there.
The weather?
Always sick. We were told to get out of North Beach. We came here in 1917. In about 5 or 6 months, you'd never know they were the same kids. The weather was such a difference. And so we went to Washington Grammar Elementary School here down the street. 1917.
So when you got here, you settled in Little Italy first time?
Yeah. Right on Chestnut, on Indian Grape, right in Little Italy, right in the middle.
But tell me, you said it was
and we never moved.
It was all dirt. There was no streets. You said it was all dirt.
All dirt, no streets? Were there any streets then?
Streets? Oh yeah, very few paved streets. We all was barefooted. When I went to Roosevelt Junior High, I was barefooted. We were barefooted. We were barefooted going through Washington School. And nobody, especially in the summertime, we always were barefooted. When we got to Roosevelt Junior High in 1920, they told us, put shoes on. And that's when we started to put shoes on. Otherwise, we always were barefooted. A lot of fun. I used to wake up on 1969 India Street. That's where we lived. India Street was the only paved street going downtown. In the morning, about 4 or 5 o'clock, we used to wake up. The streets were still hot. Barefooted. We used to run down to Broadway and get our papers, and we used to sell papers. I sold papers on 3rd and Broadway for a long time. You know,
The papers
were 2 cents each. When they went up to 3 cents, the guy says, "Hey, 3 cents. Well, it went up. Pretty soon they went up to 5 cents. Well, I had a hell of a time. I made more tips that way when it was 3 cents, because they used to give you a nickel. I used to make 2 cents tip. See, I made more money tips than I was sold the papers. Yeah. So it was quite a thing.
And what'd you do with the money?
What did I do with the money? I gave it to my mother. I gave every penny to my mother until I was 25 years old. I gave my mother all my money. When I worked anywhere, the money went home because we needed it. Mm-hmm. You know, they wasn't doing too good fishing. So any money that I made, I gave to my mother. One time I put all my money together and it was a whole silver dollar. So I gave it to my mother. I said, that's what I made today. Good. So she says, now you take this dollar, you go down to the butcher shop in Little Italy, tell them to give us some round steak, thin round steak, and she made braciole. You know, the braciole was a filled meat, you know. And while we were eating, she says, Johnny bought all this food for us today. And I was proud. For $1, all the money that I made, I gave to my mother until I was 25. I never kept no money. When I worked down anywhere, I gave my money, the money to my mother. And when my mother didn't feel good, I got in and washed the dishes. I did.
What about your
I
other
stepped
brothers?
on a stool.
Oh,
I stepped on a stool to reach the sink, and I washed all the dishes, and the other brothers wiped them, you know. Yeah, that's quite a thing.
So you were selling papers. What was your dad doing for a living?
Fishing.
And did he go out of Columbia Street?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he went on Chestnut and Mason, and he used to walk down to the Fisherman's Wharf, and he used to fish for striped bass, and he used to go for salmon fishermen out there, out the islands out there, out San Francisco, and out the
Alcatraz?
what the well out the Golden Gate, you know, there was an island out there, and they used to fish for salmon and striped bass, and used to bring fish home. My father used to come home with a bucket with fish all clean, and my mother all had to do was cook them. Used to come in, never brought a dirty fish home, always cleaned it because you had the water right there, you see, and he cleaned all the fish. All my mother had to do was fry it, or make a chupino, or do any kind of way with the fish. And we had a lot of fish. That's why we're brainy. My father didn't speak English at all. My mother learned to speak Italian better than when somebody was born there. See, she was because she had 5 sister-in-laws, all spoke pure Italian. She had to learn, and she could repeat things from the old country that she used to hear them say exactly as though she was born there. She would be able to speak good Sicilian, see, and we learned as much as we can, you know. The older of us learned to speak it because on account of my father. Fishing, you see, when we'd be with him, we'd have to speak Italian, see?
Right.
Of course, we spoke English to them, and he would repeat us in Italian. And so there was quite a mix-up there. But we learned to speak pretty good Italian. Right now, I speak good Italian as though I'm born in the old country. Because working down Filippi's about 25 years, I spoke a lot of Italian on purpose, because there was a lot of Italian people. Now they're more Americanized, and they're getting away from speaking Italian, you know, or speaking anything. And we spoke a lot of Portuguese too. Lots of mingling with Portuguese, you see.
Yes.
Yeah, the fishing, we're always together. All the tuna fishermen. Then there was an intermix of Italian and Portuguese kids that intermarried quite a bit, you know.
Right.
From Washington, 7th grade, I went to Roosevelt. I walked from Washington. We went 7th grade, started 7th grade junior high school, Roosevelt Junior High.
To 9th grade. 7th to 9th grade.
The 7th grade to the 10th.
To the 10th grade.
I graduated without a diploma because I had to go sell papers. I was selling papers on the ships.
Got it.
And I missed a lot of schooling. So I didn't get my diploma, you know. So my mother used to say, "But what happened to the diploma?" I says, "It's coming from Washington." And she knew I was bullshitting. I never did get my diploma. Yet, with my junior high school, I passed the real estate test. Now that's a tough test. Without junior high school education. And when we were taking the test for the real estate, I used to ask, you know, on a break, I used to ask the guys talking, but what kind of schooling did you have when you college students? I passed and they failed. You know why? Because I pushed, I pressed, I studied hard. You see, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of books. I kept reading a lot of books. Any place I go in an office, I never sit there and pick my nose. I read a book. My favorite book, the Reader's Digest. Any office I went into when I'm waiting for a doctor or something like that, I picked up a Reader's Digest. I read all those little books. They got fantastic stories in there. And there's where I learned to read and write and write better and got a little smarts, you know. You'll learn a lot through those. You'll learn a lot. So going through Roosevelt Junior High School, no high school, I passed the test. I become a real estate, but I didn't make too much money in real estate. I sold a lot of houses, $35, 25,000, 30,000. When I sold a house for 45,000, I says, Jesus, boy, that's a big house to sell.
What year that was?
Now there's the same house. This house here in 1937 was built for $4,000. Now it's worth $450,000. See?
Yeah.
So things change quite a bit.
Ask him how much.
This job, I worked at the glass and planing mills in a carpenter shop. I worked in a carpenter shop, and I worked all the saws, all the different saws, band saws, belt saws, planers, all that kind of stuff. And I worked with the carpenters, so I got pretty good fixing things, you know. And when I was in glass and planing mills, I learned a lot, and I finally got out of there and I went into real estate, you see.
Okay.
I didn't make too much money because I sold a lot of houses for 25,000. But now those same houses, like I say,
Right.
they're worth 400,000. Like this, 4,000. I can't even build a garage with that. Hey?
Do you know about
Ask where he
that?
met
What was your commission on that $45,000 house?
Well, the commission was 6%, but then I got about 2%.
that?
1973.
1934. 1940.
1940.
Yeah.
So were you married yet?
Oh yeah, I had Cookie. And
You didn't get married till you were 35.
Cookie was born 1934.
Okay.
See, we were married in 1934, and Cookie was born in 1935.
So you were working, where were you working when you got married?
I was working for DeFalco's Markets.
That's it.
For DeFalco's.
Okay.
See, I was
The one on
in
Rosecrans?
the liquor department.
Yeah, where he-
I was working in the liquor department. I was the head of the liquor department. See, I was making about $5 an hour. $5 an hour. See, then I got advanced, you know. Yeah.
So where did you meet the woman you married?
No.
Well, I meet my wife in San Francisco in North Beach. I live right here, and she lived up in this, and I could see her from the porch, my back room, and I could see her porch, and we see each other outside, and so we got going together. We went to what?
Wait, stop for it, Peter.
And she was 19.
Okay.
I was 25, and she was 19.
But you had met her in North Beach
In
as
North
a
Beach.
kid,
We lived next door to each other.
but then you moved down to San Diego.
Oh, after we have Cookie. After 1935. Cookie was born 1935, 36, I forget it.
I thought you told me that the kids were always getting sick, so in 1917 you came here.
Yeah, we came here in 1917. Then we went back.
I missed that.
We
Yeah, he
went
went
back
back.
to San Francisco because my father was fishing sardines at that time, and he was fishing, and I was working, chipping the paint off of ships. I was a ship's scaler, and then Cookie was born about 1935. And she was mentally retarded. We didn't know that, see?
Right.
And so when we got married, they thought my wife was a cute little girl. You know, when she was
Flirty.
well,
Look at that. Like, she was flirty.
she is a flirty
Yeah.
kid. You know, a little kid, 90 pounds.
Wow.
She was 90 pounds, soaking wet.
I knew that light was going to get
When we first got married, they thought my wife was a flirt, you know, and they call her a little whore, like, you know, a flirty kid. See, she was only 19, 18, 19. See, but she was cute as a bug, you know? And so to prove to my aunts that she was not touched, I called my aunt, my father's sister, the older sister, to come and see the bed after we had, you know. So when she came to the apartment, I go like that. I said, "She's a virgin," and you guys say that she was a whore and all this bullshit. And my mother says I was the best brain in the world by doing that. To prove to them, the old-fashioned women, you know, you had to prove to them that she wasn't. She was okay. See? And we had a hell of a time with that. My mother always praised me for that. I'm sure glad you thought of that. And well, I did it on account of her. See? And everything from there on was okay. Then they respected her. See? And from there on, then I had Cookie. Cookie was born mentally retarded, you know. Then I had Kathy. After 6 years, we had Kathy in 1942, and Joni, my daughter Joni, 1944. we were on the Yale and Harvard, and we came down here, and this is when we took this picture. That's 1930, about 1936. About 1936, looks like. Yeah.
Well, I can scan. I got to scan.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, you probably.
That's when my sister got married.
You have all these
That's
little
when my
tricks.
sister got married.
Which sister?
Huh?
Which one?
Katie.
Kathy, the only one I had. Oh, it's over there.
Katie.
My sister Katie,
I see.
up there. Yeah. And here's, I had a Nash Lafayette, a 1937 Nash Lafayette.
How much was it?
I mean,
How much was that?
not even $1,000. Of course, I bought it 10 years later, you know. In 1934, my family came back here to San Diego. I stayed in San Francisco because I got married, see? And I worked chipping paint off of ships and painting ships, you see? And they were down here, so I stayed there for another 10, 12 years. And then we finally, my kids were always sick up there, you know. I mean, Kathy and Joni and Cookie were always sick. The doctor says, get out of here. So we came to San Diego, and you never know they were the same kids. The weather was wonderful. You never know they were the same kids. So then about the communion.
Oh.
When I was 12 years old, out of Roosevelt Junior High School, I came home one day. I says, Mom, tomorrow I'm going to receive communion. You didn't tell me you were going to church. See? I was going to church in the meantime, studying my catechism, and I got in that group. That's where I got to be. There it is on the side.
Yeah.
That's Ribagliati. Hey. I was an altar boy for a while, and I used to get up in the house on Columbia Street. That's where the church originally started. I was an altar boy for twice, and I used to get up with the priest, you know. I used to make the people laugh, you know, and the preacher says, "Get out of here, move! I don't want you here," you know, because I used to. I used to make them laugh, you know. That ended my church. And so then I went home, and my mother didn't have no clothes for me to take those pictures. See? She had an old suit, a knicker bottoms. I'm on the right over there. And then I'm on the top left. Top left. That one there, yeah. That's me, and that's me on the stand. All those people are dead. All those people, they're dead. There's none of them alive yet. I'm the only one.
Sole survivor.
Oh.
So maybe being in the church isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Huh?
Bad joke. Did your dad ever take you guys to the old country?
I'd never been out of California. Never been to Las Vegas. What am I going to go there for? You go one street, there's a cigar store, there's a restaurant, there's another restaurant. San Francisco the same way, on Venice Avenue. That's all you see. What used to be cars, used cars, you know. Now they're all restaurants. Every door is a restaurant, just like North Beach here. like North Beach, Little Italy here. Same thing. Next door to each other, there's a restaurant, and it's grown big. You'd never know they were the same. San Francisco, I'd never know they were the same place. I remember certain things, you know. Across the street from where 619 Chestnut Street. I remember that. And then when we were moved back 3 years later, we moved in the same house, 619A Chestnut, upstairs. And we lived downstairs before on Chestnut, between Columbus Avenue and Mason. And then across the street there was a big empty lot. The horses, scavengers, used to keep their horses in their trucks down there. They used to get flooded, you know. So they finally moved out, and they built a Safeway store in that complex right there. And it's amazing. After so many years, I moved back to San Francisco in the same house, just upstairs.
Huh.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah. Nothing. He just got old.
So how did
my
he?
brother Frank ran the boat. He ran the boat. He had the in the fog years ago. He went on the rocks at Point Loma twice in the deep fog. Beep beep, and he used to go there. Finally, he hit the rocks at Point Loma. He did it right. The boat sunk, all full of sardines. Yeah, twice. You know, they went by ear, you know what I mean? Of course, in the fog, you know, it resounds. All you could hear is beep, beep. And he finally hit the rocks. And finally, they changed the name from Catarina to St. Anthony, or to Madonna del Lumi and St. Anthony. The last boat that they had, the St. Anthony, my brother Frank, he ran the boat. He was dead reckoning. My brother Willie, he was one of the best navigators in the fleet. He studied quite a bit, crammed. I'm surprised at him, but he was one of the best. He taught a lot of people navigation. Yeah. So
your dad died of old age.
Huh? Well, he had esophagus. He had father. He died about 7, 8 years ago. Everybody's gone but me. 6. 5 boys and 1 girl. I'm the only one left.
Wow.
So you see, I did something good.
Yeah. The Falcos and the real estate. You went to Felipe's what year?
If I went to Felipe's about
Art Leach. No, Peter. He went back to real estate.
About 19
Art Leach Realtors in the 70s.
about 1965.
65.
1965. I was with Felipe's about 25 years. Yeah. I knew a lot of people. A lot of people.
When we moved here, he still worked.
I can't get lost no place. I knew a lot of people from here to there. You treat people nice, they treat you nice. See? One time we went to Disneyland. We went to Disneyland, and my kids, I used to get, when I was working for DeFalco, I used to get tickets for the ball games. And I used to take Kathy and Joni to the ball game. I had extra tickets that people would give me. As wait a minute, I could see some, oh, you don't know nobody. Just as soon as they said that, hey, hi, John, you need a ticket? I give them a ticket, see? And we see the ball game. One time we went to Disneyland. And when we're going there, you know how big Disneyland parking lot is? And way down there, a guy was waving his hand. And my kid says, you're not going to know nobody here. Just as soon as we park, right alongside each other. Hi, John. They flipped. They flipped. And then when we went in Disneyland, we met a lot of people from San Francisco. We met a lot of people from here. We had a hell of a time. It's amazing. They said you wouldn't know nobody. And they did know. I knew somebody. Just as soon as I get off the car, somebody knew me. I could never get lost. Somebody knows me someplace.
What about your second stint in real estate? The second time with Art Leach. How was that?
The what?
When you worked for Art Leach Real Estate, how was that?
Oh, I didn't. I sold a lot of houses, 25,000 each. 25,000 each, you see. But I didn't make too much money on them, you know. But now those same, like I say, those same houses are worth 400,000. See, I was making $200-300 a house. See, and when I sold a house, that was $40,000. I thought, Jesus, I sold a big house. You know, I made $300. Okay, so I didn't make that. But then the money was in commercial sales, apartments and stuff. I never got to that. I got out. Then I went worked with Felipe's.
Did your dad ever ask you to work in fishing with him?
Oh yeah, he used to get mad at me. Yeah. One time we were down by the ferry boats down the foot of Hyde Street. I was a little kid. I was with my mother and my father. They were talking to somebody on the dock, and the ferry boat was sitting right there. I threw up on dry land. My mother used to tell him, "You're hollering at this guy. He got sick on dry land. What are you talking about?" I got sick on dry land, and they wanted me to be a fisherman. Are you kidding? I tried it down there. It was great fun. Coming back, boy, I was sick. I used to drink half of his wine. He has to have a little barrel of wine. I used to drink some of his wine. What happened to my wine? Son of a... Pretty soon, I told my mother I was doing that. So she told him, she says, "No wonder I thought that barrel was leaking." A little tiny barrel about this big, you know. He used to drink out of it, you know. Take a thing like that and take it. He never was much of a drinker. He used to take a mouthful, you know. And when I felt sick, I used to. I finally got that. That's amazing. Yeah, then I got old. Yeah. And she was 19.
Okay.
I was 25, and she was 19.
But you had met her in North Beach as a kid?
We lived next door to each other.
But then you moved down to San Diego.
Oh, after we have Cookie. After 1935. Cookie was born 1935, 36, I forget it.
I thought you told me that the kids were always getting sick, so in 1917 you came here.
Yeah, we came here in 1917. Then we went back.
I missed that.
We went back to San Francisco because my father was fishing sardines at that time, and he was fishing, and I was working, chipping the paint off of ships. I was a ship's scaler, and then Cookie was born about 1935. And she was mentally retarded. We didn't know that, see?
Right.
And so when we got married, they thought my wife was a cute little girl. You know, when she was
Flirty.
well,
Look at that, Mike. She was flirty.
she is a flirty
Yeah.
kid. You know, a little kid. 90 pounds.
Wow.
She was 90 pounds, soaking wet. Did I retire?
Ever.
No. Well, from the retail clerks, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 12 years, I retired 12 again. Yeah. Otherwise, Felipe's, you never had no retirement. Yeah, it's just a job, you know, 25 years. They'll give you nothing.
Right.
For Christmas, they give you a check for $100, you know. You know. But otherwise, I never advanced to nothing.
How many years were you married for?
How many years was I married? 62 years.
And how did she die?
All right. She was sitting right there, and she felt heart. She recalled the thing. Took her to the hospital, and I said, "Well, you might as well go because we're gonna give her a test." See. So about 8 o'clock, I called back. I says, "How's my wife doing?" She says, "You want to come up and see her?" I go up there, and I says, "How's my wife?" She says, "She passed away." I said, "How come?" Her heart. And her mother and father lived to over 90 years each.
Wow.
Old. And she did. She had all the longevity of 90 years old, but she died when she was 86.
Huh.
That's the way she went.
And it was a heart?
Yeah. She had something. I don't know what's that. As a kid, you know.
Okay. Like a murmur or something?
Yeah. I have supposed to be a bad heart. Heart failure. I'm supposed to have heart failure, but I drink too much wine.
Yeah, something like this.
Yeah, I did with Felipe's. Yeah, but I never worked. I never worked outside in the tents. I worked inside. They have all special people outside in the tents, like pizza and pasta and hot sausages, sandwiches, go like 60. Go
Wait
like
a
60.
second.
But I never worked outside.
Were you involved with the Morona de Lune when they
That's
walked?
on that, but that's
When
yeah,
we
I
walked
can
all the way down
move
to
it all
the
around.
boats.
Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah.
That part, tell him that's what he wants to know, not the thing. Where the fishermen and they bless the boats. That's what he's asking.
Well, that was one of the
Well, put
main
it back
things.
on. Put it back on, Pete.
It's on.
Oh.
It's been on.
Oh,
Go ahead. That was one of the main
That's
things.
one of the main things that happened. That's in Little Italy every year. They had a procession. They had a procession with all the fishermen, all the different societies. You know, Madonna del Lume, all these different holy societies that they have. See, my mother and father were president of the Madonna del Lume. You see, with that, what they had, both of them had. They were the president of the women's and the president of the fathers and the men's department of the Madonna del Lume. You could see that. You could see it.
Okay.
You know, with the thing right there. Both of them were president. Yeah. And they used to walk from here down to the boats. The priest used to bless the boats, bless the water, and then come back to church and have a feast, whatever they had. Always a big parade. Yeah.